Add-on Solutions. Add-on Desire.
Hello viewers, welcome to our daily news analysis session. I am Lokesh Pengonda. Today's first article is Model Code of Conduct by Election Commission. So in the newspaper, we've seen that the West Bengal government has asked the Election Commission to remove the Prime Minister's photo in the vaccination campaign. So why it comes under Model Code of Conduct? And what is Model Code of Conduct? Model Code of Conduct is a set of guidelines. These are issued by the Election Commission to regulate the political parties and the candidates prior to the election. So what happens is, let's say the elections are coming up in the next month and the political parties might be starting their own publicity events, processions and other gatherings. So to regulate the political parties and the candidates, this Election Commission has brought Model Code of Conduct. This is in line with Article 324, which mandates that the Election Commission should conduct the elections in a free and fair manner. So, in line with this article, the Election Commission is implementing the Model Code of Conduct. So, this Model Code of Conduct is operational only when the election schedule is released. So, from the beginning of the election schedule being released till the election results are out, this Model Code of Conduct will be implemented by the Election Commission. So let's see what the origin and how it evolved. First, Model Code of Conduct is not provided in any constitution or any other articles or provisions of the Parliament. It is evolved from Kerala's first use of Code of Conduct provisions. So what happened was, in 1960 elections of Kerala, they brought a code of conduct for political actors. This was brought so to regulate the people who are. This was brought to regulate the persons involved with the elections, that is mostly the political parties and the political candidates. So subsequently, as this code of conduct is useful to the regulations, what happened was Election Commission of India has taken this from the Kerala and has implemented in 1962 to all the Lok Sabha elections. So as this code of conduct of Kerala was found to be helpful by the Election Commission of India, it took this from them and started implementing them in 1962 elections of the Lok Sabha. But what happened was, as we've explained earlier, this does not have any statutory backing or constitutional backing. So the political parties and the political candidates are not following the rules set by the Election Commission, and they are flagrantly flouting these norms, and they are continuing the corruption. So what Election Commission did was, it started to enforce the Model Code of Conduct more strictly. So you can ask, are all the Model Code of Conduct provisions not backed by any provisions? No. Some of the Model Code of Conduct provisions are backed by various laws and various statutes. Let's see, some of the provisions are backed by Indian Penal Code, and some by Criminal Procedure, and some by Representation of People Act 1951. So let's look into what these provisions are. First, the Model Code of Conduct has 8 provisions. They deal with general conduct, meetings, processions, polling day, polling booths, observers, powers in power, party in power, election manifestos. These provisions are not to be by-hearted. You just have to know how it works, that's all. First, general conduct. It provides a general conduct of political parties. It says that political parties can criticize the work of other candidates and other parties in power, but they should not delve into the personal lives of other candidates. That is, you can criticize the ministers or the government which is in power based on the policies, but you cannot criticize ministers or member of legislative assemblies based on their personal lives. Second, the meetings conducted by the party should be informed to the local police authorities. So why it is needed is because to avert any security threats to these meetings. Third, processions. If two or more candidates plan procession along the same route, they should be establishing a contact in advance, because what happens is, as every political party and candidate wants to publicize about themselves, they would have a procession. That is, they would start a convoys, they would start meetings, they would start going door to door. So what happens is, if let's say more than one party candidate or party candidates from various political parties are meeting at the same point of time, there might be clashes between these political party supporters. Fourth, polling day. The rules say that all authorized party members at the polling booths would be given suitable badges. These badges will not have any symbol, name of the candidate or name of the party. These authorized political workers, what they do is they observe what's happening at the polling stations. Fifth, polling booths. Only voters and those with valid pass from the election commission are allowed to enter the polling booths. So what happens is, if persons who does not have valid election cards, they are not entered into the polling booths. Thus, there won't be any fake votes, there won't be any misuse of the voting structure present there. Next, observers. Election Commission will appoint observers, and the political parties, if they have any problems with the process of the election, or if they find any misconduct at the election polling station, they can report these problems to the observers appointed by the Election Commission. Next, party in power. As the party in power, they will have more control over the resources and over the personnel present there. The Model Code of Conduct says that the party in the power should not misuse these powers. It says that ministers of the ruling government should not combine official visits with the election work or use any official machinery for the same. It also says that the party must avoid advertising at the cost of public exchequer. Let's say there is a political party A, it is in ruling in a particular state, and the elections will be conducted next month. So what can happen is, this political party in power may start using its images, may start using its party symbols on the public services. Let's say if there are any buses of the government, this political party may start using their political symbols on the buses. So what this MCC states that they should avoid advertising at the cost of the public exchequer. Next, the ministers and other authorities must not announce any financial grants or promises of any construction of roads, drinking water, etc. Next, election manifestos. This was the last provision, this was the latest provision added in 2013. These guidelines prohibit parties from making promises which exert undue influence. Let's say if a political party is saying that if we come to power, we'll provide petrol, diesel, electricity, everything for free, everything forever. This is exerting undue influence, because these promises might not seem feasible in the long term. So Election Commission is asking that these manifestos should also indicate the means to achieve promises. That is, let's say a political party in its manifesto is saying that if we come to power, we'll provide 50 lakh to all the eligible voters. So this Election Commission is saying that, okay, you can give it, but you should also show how it is feasible. You should show what are the means to achieve these promises. These are the 8 provisions of Model Code of Conduct. So as we've discussed earlier, there is no legal enforceability to most of these provisions, and Model Code of Conduct does not have any statutory backing. That is, it is not a law made by the Parliament. Also, it is not deriving its strength from the constitution. It acquires strength from the enforcement of the election commission. But certain provisions, as we've discussed earlier, has enforceability under various statutes. Let's say a political party member is having publicity at midnight and he is using loudspeakers. Though the election commission's model code of conduct does not have any statutory backing to prevent this, but Indian Penal Code or any other statutes which have a legal provision will prevent this and will penalize this. Next, in 2013, the Standing Committee on Personal, Public Grievances, Law and Justice recommended that making model code of conduct legally enforceable and recommended that it should be made part of Representation of Peoples Act 1951. So what happened was, in the last few years and in the last decade, what we are witnessing is many politicians are grossly flouting the norms. Though the election commission is trying to regulate their behavior, trying to enforce the MCC, but as this doesn't have much teeth, as this doesn't have much penalizing provisions, the 2013 Standing Committee recommended that MCC should be legally binding, it should be made legally binding and should be made part of Representation of Peoples Act. However, the Election Commission argues that making it legally binding will be an issue because, as let's say a person is violating MCC and if a case is filed against him, it takes lot of time because the Indian judiciary is already facing huge backlog. So it will take so much of the time to resolve these cases, and the election in that particular area might have to be postponed till the judiciary gives a result. So what Election Commission is saying that election should be completed within 45 days or close by, and if judiciary is involved, the proceedings take longer, and thus it is not feasible to make it enforceable by law. Let's come to the next article. This article is talking about Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, Bengaluru, having developing a potential drug for Alzheimer's. So first look into what Alzheimer's is. Alzheimer's is an irreversible and progressive brain disorder. So it is a brain disorder. What happens is it destroys the memory, thinking ability and the capability to carry simple tasks. That is, the person who is infected with Alzheimer's disease, their memory will be destroyed partially or completely. Their thinking ability and their capability to do even simple tasks will be impacted adversely. The possibility of Alzheimer's disease increases with the age. That is, those who are aged 60 and above are generally 60 and above will face Alzheimer's problems generally. Let's look into the statistics behind Alzheimer's. The World Alzheimer's Report, which was published in 2015, it states that in 2015 itself, there are nearly 46 million people worldwide living with dementia. Dementia is one of the causes of Alzheimer's, that is a brain disorder. 46 million, that is 4.6 crore worldwide, are suffering from dementia. It says that by 2050, nearly 131 million, that is nearly 13.1 crore people worldwide might be affected by Alzheimer's. The present stats say that China has the largest number of people who are suffering from Alzheimer's. Next, for now, there exists no cure, but medication and management strategies may temporarily improve symptoms. So this is a present context, but what happened was the Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, it saying that it developed a potential drug, and it's saying that the drug which is which is used on mice has given positive results. It is saying that the molecule TGR63, which is a potential drug, when given to mice having the Alzheimer's problem, has seen that it reduced amyloid plaques and it reversed cognitive decline. Next, coming to the prelims practice questions, which of the following is are correct with regarding to National School of Drama? First, it is a theatre training institute situated in New Delhi, India. Next, it is an autonomous organization under the control of Ministry of Culture, Government of India. Which of the above statements is or are correct? Take a pause and solve it on your own. The answer to this question is both. It is a theatre. It was established in 1959. It exists in New Delhi. It is under the Ministry of Culture. It is saying that the chairman of this institute saying that the National School of Drama is likely to get an institute of importance status, and the current institute chairman is Mr. Paresh Rawal. Next, which among the following are declared as classical dances by Indian government? First, Chow. Next, Satriya, Kuchipudi, Manipuri. Which of the above statements is or are correct? The correct answer is all except one, because Chow is a folk dance in the eastern state of Odisha, and all these are classical dances. Let's look into what other classical dances exist. So in India there exist 8 classical dances. They are Bharatanatyam, the state of origin is Tamil Nadu, Kathak, Uttar Pradesh, Kuchipudi, origin Andhra Pradesh, Odissi from Odisha, Kathakali from Kerala, Satriya from Assam, Manipuri from Manipur, Mohiniyattam from Kerala. So from Kerala we have 2 classical dances, and from other states we have 6 classical dances. Next question, which of the following is or are correct with regard to Model Code of Conduct, that is MCC? It is provided in the Constitution to ensure free and fair elections. It is operational till newly elected MLAs or MPs takes oath. Which of the above statements given is or are not correct? The question is asking about finding not correct question. The answer is both, because both are not correct. As we've explained earlier, Model Code of Conduct is evolved by MCC by taking it from Kerala. It is not under constitutional rules or any other parliamentarian rules. It is operational till the results of the elections are out. That is, only till the election results are given out, this Model Code of Conduct will be operational, and not till newly elected members take oath. Which of the following statements about budget are correct? The Constitution of India does not specifically use the word budget. According to constitutional provision, the annual financial statement has to distinguish expenditure on revenue account from other expenditure. The answer to this question is both, because Article 112 of the Indian Constitution uses the term annual financial statement, and this annual financial statement is usually said to be budget, and it also states that this statement should clearly distinguish the expenditure on revenue with other expenditure. Previous year's question, we've taken it from 2020 prelims question paper of UPSC CSC. If the RBI decides to adopt an expansionist monetary policy, which of the following it would not do? First, cut and optimize the statutory liquidity ratio, that is SLR. Second, increase the marginal standing facility rate, that is MSF. Third, cut the bank rate and repo rate. It is asking for state Options not. The answer to this question is C, because statutory liquidity ratio is a percentage of the proportion, it is a proportion of deposits a bank has to keep with itself. That is, if the RBI increases the statutory liquidity ratio, the banks has to keep more amount of assets with itself. Thus, it will decrease the amount of money that is going out. So this is not something the RBI would do if it wants to follow an expansionist policy. Second, increase in marginal standing facility. Marginal standing facility are the loans provided by the Reserve Bank to the banks for a short-term duration. So if the MSF is increased by the Reserve Bank, what happens is that is an interest rate. If MSF interest rates are increased by the RBI, the banks will take less loans. Thus, this is not something the RBI would not do if it wants to follow an expansionist policy. Cut the bank rate and the repo rate. Repo rate and the bank rate are the interest rates which the RBI charges. RBI charges this amount of particular interest rate when it is giving loans to banks. Thus, if RBI reduces the interest rates it charges from the banks, banks will lend more from the Reserve Bank. Thus, the amount of money in the circulation will increase. Thus, the SLR reduction and the reduction in bank and repo rate will increase the money supply in the market, whereas increase in marginal standing facility will reduce the money supply in the market. Thus, the answer is 1 and 3. That comes the end of the session. Thank you.
Add-on solutions. Add-on desires.